So thanks, guys. So just to continue really where I left off earlier, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what's going on in terms of the development of the Actus software, our roadmap, things that are in progress and coming up. First of all, I just wanted to recap on that little poll we did earlier. It was really interesting, actually. So we had those 5 themes, and actually we've asked people to kind of name their top 2 themes out of those 5, and we got a real great variety back. Right? So all of those themes were in the top 2 for some people, a significant proportion, which is really good. And what was really clear, there was 3 which, although they don't dominate, there's a 50% plus of people named these 3 themes in their top 2. So that's a really fantastic piece of feedback for us. And hopefully some of the things we'll talk about now are going to show how we're hoping to support customers with these particular themes and more. So again, just to reiterate, we're not looking to only do one thing or the other. So things like collaboration and learning, not in this list. We've also got lots of activity going on around those. Obviously, we try to do things which benefit as many customers as possible, and that's sort of the direction, the weighting, I guess, that we give to development. But all of our customer needs are important to us, and so we're always looking to find ways of supporting customers with whatever those challenges are. So again, always looking for more feedback. Now, as I just sort of go through a few points, if there are any particular points that are prompted by what I say or things that I don't say that you want to raise with us, please do feel free to put them in the chat. We won't necessarily pick up on them in the session, but we'll be delighted to come back to you on those. And the thing that I'm going to talk to you about in most detail at the moment is our dashboards work. And actually, measure being one of those top themes is really important for us to recognize, and hopefully is one of the things that we're supporting through our dashboards work. Now, management dashboards in Actus, so a dashboard, we call lots of things dashboard actually, so I have my dashboard when I log into Actus, but we're talking today about management dashboards. And there's lots of reasons that people need dashboards and like dashboards within systems. You see on the left there some of the things that we hope to achieve through dashboards. And that includes the sort of visual side of things. So visualize, again, is an important one. Obviously, measuring things and having that information to hand easily is important. Being able to act on those things is also important. And the administration side of things. So perhaps not so obviously is that we hope our dashboards work help you with some of those time-consuming tasks. So actually, there's a time saving, not just because you can get information easily and quickly, but it goes a little bit beyond that. Now, we have 3 different types of management dashboard within Actus. So you'll see on the right there, performance dashboard, compliance dashboard, and our new customizable dashboards. I'm going to tell you a little bit about those, just a quick overview of those in a second. But we're really interested, again, to know as we go through these things, if you weren't aware of these things, but you feel or believe it may be useful in your organization. So first of all, the performance dashboard, perhaps probably the sort of most widely known and widely used. It's been around for a while now. And this is focused on sort of 3 areas: the objectives, the developments, and end-of-year appraisals. And the key task here is to be able to show you the status. And as we know, one of the tasks, one of the challenges, is to make sure that everybody completes their end-of-year appraisal on time, for instance, to ensure that people are using the system to record their objectives and to record completion of those objectives. And really, this is a sort of high-level view of that. Now, it works at a team level, so a manager can see this for their own team. And if you are in the HR team and you have the HR team option, then you can see across whatever part of the organization that you have visibility of, which may be the whole organization. And there's a comparative measure here as well. So each of those bars is shown as a comparative, a benchmark against the organization. Now, one of the things that I don't think you see on the screen is that there is also some functionality here. So if you were to click on particularly the end of year appraisals, you click on a segment of that chart, it gives you the action to chase people and their managers, to email them and say, the deadline is X, please complete your end of year appraisal. So again, just one little example of where we're using dashboards to hopefully save time as well. Now this is well established. We're not proposing to change this wholesale. There may be new functionality that comes around this, but this is a well established tool. One which you may or may not be aware of, and is mostly used at the moment within our financial services customers, but isn't only for those customers. In financial services, particularly those with SMCR, which is the regulatory regime from the FCA, you may know this as the SMCR dashboard or SMCR charts. But really, this is about formal compliance-led responsibilities, and this shows us an overview of whether we have successfully allocated responsibilities in a formal regime across the business, and whether those responsibilities are clearly defined in terms of their functions and what roles they're sitting. So again, there's some functionality here which allows us to deal with gaps and exceptions. And again, we're trying to save time here using at a glance information to then produce sort of one-click or two-click actions that help you to save time. So for instance, you might email the people who have not accepted their responsibilities. So as well as financial services, and another example around this is any of the ISO standards. So as a software business, we have ISO 27001, we have ISO 9000 responsibilities, and we're able to allocate roles and responsibilities across our team according to that model and track those. And particularly in regulated environments, there's a real aspect of evidence and audit trail around this. And this is what the compliance aspect of Actus does. The dashboard is a way of you ensuring that you maintain compliance. And that's a really key part of it. Again, the third one of these is relatively new. We introduced this, I think it was in March, with our Actus Evolve release, and it's still quite new. So there's lots going on here, and this is very much, we're calling this at the moment the customizable dashboards. They are dashboards, but there's a key aspect here, which again I think was touched on by Claire in particular, also other things that Rachel said, I think, which is about the fact that all of our customers have quite different combinations of requirements, and Actus, as you will know, is quite a flexible tool, and we aim to understand your needs and your requirements, and through implementation and ongoing to match the system to those requirements rather than the other way around. And what we're doing with the customizable dashboards is recognizing this fact that you might need different data, you might need different information to hand at any one time, and therefore, although what you may have seen thus far is one instance of this, which we called the HR dashboard when we released the Actus Evolve version of the software. The HR dashboard is one example of a customizable dashboard. And these dashboards there can be multiple of them, visible to different people with different data points on, and all sort of fully controlled with the sort of security side of things, so people only see the data they should see. And I guess if we come back to what dashboards are for, we're aiming here to give you that at a glance data really easily. We're aiming to help you to visualize information really easily, and in some cases give you charts which you can just download, copy and paste into PowerPoint presentations and things if you need to. We're aiming to summarize the data that you've already got in reports. And reports are sometimes you need to do the work, you need to have that detailed level of data, but oftentimes you just want an instant data point. You just want to know, where are we? Why have only 31% completed or got an appraisal? 30% of those are on target, great, but why have only 31% of people got an appraisal? And again, what we're aiming to do here is to build on more functionality as well. So there's some functionality available already, and there will be more. So that's just a kind of little overview. I'm going to come back a little on a couple of those points in a moment. What we again would like to know, we'd like to get some feedback from you about these different types of dashboards. Now we're going to give you a little poll just to ask you which of those you believe to be useful to you, to your organization, to your colleagues. We won't ask in the poll, but again, we're also really keen to know who you think might use these. So is it just something that HR might use? Is it something you would anticipate every manager being able to use for their own team? Or perhaps it might be something that you want to give visibility to your senior management, to your execs, visibility to them of the same things that you see across the organization. So again, really keen to get your feedback on this. If you would like to vote, we'll just give it a few more seconds. And we'll move on and tell you a little bit more about what's going on now.
If there's something you want particularly, I was going to say, while the voting's going on, just pop it in the chat as well if there's a specific use, as Adrian's saying, that you'd find valuable. And his question is whether or not it's sort of for you, the data, or do you think managers would use the data? I mean, there's not huge numbers of us. You can just unmute and tell us as well if you want. Just interested to know.
Great, we'll just give it a couple more seconds. Anybody else wants to vote? That's great, thank you. Caitlin, would you show us the results, please? That's great, thank you. So again, really good to know actually that the performance dashboard has got, I think, probably high usage. We recognise most of our customers have got that enabled for at least some users. So it's good to know that that is useful for you. The compliance dashboard is interesting, is that at the moment we only have a subset of our customers using that. So there may be some conversations we should have with you guys about that. Just seeing in the chat, great for managers as well. So again, it's an interesting aspect. It comes up quite a lot in conversations with customers, particularly in HR teams, in learning and development roles. They get bombarded with requests for data or reports from different parts of the organization. And one of the things that we're able to do with dashboards, all of the dashboards, particularly with the customizable dashboards, is to distribute that job out so that you can give visibility to managers about their own teams. And if you have our talent pools feature enabled, you can define what team means. So it's not just necessarily people who directly report to somebody, but it could be a virtual team, it could be a project team, it could be, you know, a whole part of the business in terms of a division department, for instance. So we're able to support that quite easily through those customizable dashboards. So just moving on to what these customizable dashboards entail. So again, it's really important to note that we have set up an initial dashboard, which is an example. It is relatively early days for these customizable dashboards. We have quite a lot going on already. We'll show you in a moment, but there will be more certainly as we respond to the feedback we get about what you guys need, what our customers need. But the important thing here is that these dashboards, they're not a one-size-fits-all. So you can have different dashboards for different people, showing different types of data, and you can actually manage these yourselves. So if you have the permission, the relevant permission, which would only obviously be people like yourselves, people with, you know, who are deliberately given this access, you can actually set up dashboards, change what's on there, and change who can see them, and unpublish them, publish them when you're ready. So this is something which is very much something you can control, and hopefully it allows you to match what Actus does to your way of working, rather than us sort of mandating that. And just a quick question there, is visibility only available to managers, or can be nominated individuals, department admins? It can be through admins. We'd need to talk to you about how that's done. Essentially the key point there is controlling what degree of information they're allowed to see. So if they're an administrator, not a manager, should they see all the information about the employees in that group or not? We can configure it, or we can help you configure it to do that. But yes, absolutely, it can be any individual, and in theory, any subset of your organization and any slice of data in terms of whether it's appraisals, objectives, development, one-to-ones, etc., can be configured that way. So lots of possibilities. So what's available at the moment in terms of these dashboards? Now, in terms of the modules, we've got about 22, I think it might even be 23 today, widgets that we've published, and they cover most of our modules. There are always more to do. So for instance, we have some work to do on our behavior indicators or competencies module to bring that into the dashboards as well. And undoubtedly there will be more around many of these modules as we develop it out in response to feedback. And in particular, what we're trying to understand here is what we need to measure. So what you guys need to measure, and to make those most relevant and salient points easily visible to you, and also then to build some actions off the back of it. So really the aim with the work that we're doing, and this is ongoing, is to allow these things to meet your needs and be relatively flexible. So some of the dashboard items, these widgets, they have options within them. So for instance, the appraisals widgets now, you can actually choose which appraisal template to base that data on. And so you might only look at your end-year appraisals, or you might switch it to look at the mid-year appraisals, because you do mid-year at the moment, and then you'll switch it back to look at end-year in the future. So it can easily tailor to what you need to show. In terms of actions, some of the things that you'll see coming through are, again, similar to the performance dashboard, where we're able to email people directly from the dashboard to chase them. Around development and organization development and training, we've got very powerful tools in the dashboard that allows you to mandate training, a particular piece of training for a whole group of people, up to a whole organization. So you could say that this particular mandatory training course must be completed by a certain date by everybody, or by everybody in a particular job role, so sales roles, etc. And that's a very powerful tool, which hopefully will save you time, again, as we saw those themes earlier. So again, we have one more poll for you to hear a moment again, if you wouldn't mind, which is just to get a sense from you about what type of things you would expect to do on a dashboard. If you wouldn't mind bringing the final poll up. Okay. So we have these options here. Summary stats. Is it the visual side, which is charts, infographics that you can use for reporting? Is it the detail level, or employee level of data that you want? Or is it about those time-saving actions? Which is the most important one for you, or the most important too? And again, if there's something we've not mentioned, please do put it in the chat. I see there's a couple of comments here, which I'll just respond to. From Emily on performance dashboard, where's pulling the data from? We will drill down with that particular question, Emily, directly on you. Essentially, the scope of the data is defined usually by the sort of team relationships and manager relationships, including as HR, you may have a restricted view. You may have a visibility across the whole organization, but you may have a restricted view. So yeah, we'll pick that up with you separately. Mandatory training, yeah, we'll talk to you about that again. The tools that we're building there, there's actually quite a few tools already built, and there's one more in progress. We've recognized an awful lot that customers have, all customers really seem to have a need to ensure that everybody completes certain bits of training. And sometimes that repeats every year, and sometimes that's just a one-off. And the aim is to basically make it as simple as possible for you to have visibility and to act on gaps and exceptions there, so that you maintain the level of compliance that you need. Now, that's whether you're using our learning management system or not. Obviously, if you're using Actus LMS, then it becomes kind of fully integrated sometimes, is that you're able to ensure that people actually do the training and it automatically record that they've done it, whether that's a piece of e-learning or an in-person training event where you mark attendance, and that actually determines that somebody's completed that piece of training, so that you have accurate information fully integrated. So we'll come back to you about that as well. Somebody's saying couldn't choose two options. Apologies for that. So again, really interesting for me to see the visual side of things coming so strongly here. Now, this is obviously a key part of our dashboard work. Probably offline we'll sort of get some more feedback from you, but I'm taking away from that actually the communication of the visual side of things, the communication of status, communication of progress, success, gaps and exceptions, communication of that to colleagues is an important part. The visual side of dashboards is also about just making it easy to read and easy to see. But I would assume that actually the communication of this is important. Now, one of the things you can do with the new dashboards is that you can easily download any of those little widgets, whether it's a graphical one or whether it's just data. You can download it as an image, and that image can then be pasted into an email, a document, a presentation, etc., to help you to communicate those things across the business or upwards as necessary. One-click actions and the summary stats, again, really good to see. Those are the directions that we're going. There are some detail level things on the dashboards. That's mostly around the learning and development side, I think. We're also surfacing a little bit of the sort of feedback and sort of the softer side of things and information that's useful to see, particularly to managers. But again, really great feedback. So thank you very much for that. I'm just going to sort of finish off hopefully with a little bit more information about, I was on the wrong slide, wasn't I? A little bit more information about what other things that are going on. So again, the top 3 themes, all of the 5 themes, you know, certainly have reflect needs from different customers. But these top 3 themes, I think the dashboards work is not the only thing that's going on, but actually the dashboards work does allow us to address quite a few of these things: the measurement, the visualizing, and the saving time in different ways. Other things that are going on around measurement in particular, we have some work going on around objectives. And this is in part around the idea that an individual's objectives often relates to a larger organization within an organization. So it might be a team objective, it might be a departmental objective, it might be the overall organization objectives. Now, being able to measure how the organization is achieving its objectives through measurement of individual objectives is something that's in progress at the moment. And there's another aspect to that as well, which is that a lot of our customers, we'd say probably mostly people are using objectives for things which are not necessarily numerically defined. It may be achieve a certain project, it may be a particular goal for an individual, it may be contribute to a bigger piece of work, but it's not necessarily defined in numerical metrics. However, we are seeing an increasing number of customers who want to measure in numeric terms. And this may be around sort of KPIs, it may be around OKRs, key results. And again, we're doing some work on that at the moment in the next few months to make that a little bit more, a little bit easier to visualize and easier to summarize progress and measure that progress across the business. So again, if that's of interest to you, we'd really like to engage with you and get some more feedback from you about that. Now, obviously key to all of us is measuring performance, and that will mean different things in different ways. We've got lots of tools around that. Again, we're always looking to find ways of surfacing that data in more relevant and consumable ways. Engagement. Now, we've heard quite a lot today about the challenges of engagement. Current time, obviously, it's always a challenge, and that's in 2 aspects from our perspective. One is engaging people in the Actus software and the types of things you're using the Actus software for, but also engagement just generally. And again, we have tools around measuring engagement, whether that's sort of surveys, softer tools as well, and we'd be keen to understand if there are new requirements there. And then a couple of other things, the organization-wide admin. Again, I mentioned a couple of those things from the dashboard's perspective. It's not the only place where you can do this, but we are recognizing increasingly there are times when you need to do a piece of admin which, you know, across dozens, hundreds, or even more people. And sometimes we can't take all the legwork out of that, but where we can, we hope that the tool will support you increasingly in doing those things. And again, the visualization stuff. This has come up a couple of times now through the different polls that we've done today. It's really important that we recognize that, and it's really fantastic to get that feedback, honestly. And if there are more things that we can do, or more steps we can take along the journey that we're already taking with visualizing stuff, then again, we'd love to get some feedback from you. Please do engage with Jane, Swags, Nuji, myself, whoever you have contact with, if there are particular things that you'd like us to work on.
Thanks so much, Adrian. There's so much we want to talk about in terms of the product, but I'm conscious that probably having small groups, and if you are interested in maybe a sort of a follow-up session, half hour or something like that at lunchtime, where maybe Adrian could talk to you in small groups about what you want, or individually, you know, it's only really by him getting this information from you as to what you're looking for that we can do what we are able to. And I'm tremendously grateful to Adrian. I was so excited about the dashboards personally, because I look at myself being someone who's quite visual, and that's the sort of data in the way in which I'd like to see it and have always wanted to see it. So I'm hoping you see it as a really positive progression, but for us to be able to provide you with the right information, we're going to need more feedback from you. So let us know if you're happy to get engaged with that, or you'd like to do more with your feedback. And Adrian says we've done 22 widgets so far, but it's where we go next with the widgets, if you like. Which one's next? What data do you want? Are they telling you the information that you need? That's the kind of feedback that we need there. So just wrapping up, and don't worry, we're going to let you off. We'll give you some hours back in the day, some time back in the day. I've got a few final slides to share with you to just close down and tell you a bit about what we're doing as an organisation. We've always been about trying to make a difference, about putting something back. And thank you to Swags, who's kind of recognised the fact that it's about time we got out there and did something which is good for us in terms of physicality potentially, but also supporting our charity partners. We've got 3 high-profile charities that some of which have been with us today. So St Mungo's, the RSPCA and Age UK are all customers of ours. So we are just now engaging with them as a business to see how we can support them. So to sort of let you know, we've got that aspect there that we're working on. We may start working things there with them in terms of whether we can do this on a wider scale. I don't know, but it's nice having come through a pandemic. We feel like it would be nice to do something to put back. In terms of us trying to give things back, just a reminder really that we have huge amounts of resources out there. We've got lots of thought leadership. I think some of you will be aware of these, but you may not. Ebooks, we've got some great infographics. All of these are free, all these are available, and these are now available to you, or if they're not, correct me, Adrian, if I'm wrong, they are or will be available to you from within the Actus system as well, if you want them to be. Certain numbers will be made available to you. But those are accessible to you in terms of managers' steps to writing objectives and things like that. So much of the resource you can either download from the website, but we had identified that our customers didn't want to put their details in. You've already got our details, so you should be able to download them from Actus as well. So in terms of this, we've also done the HR Uprising. I'm sure you're aware of the podcast. Always looking for podcast guests. They're people who want to come and talk about their story. We've had customers and non-customers on who want to share if you've got some specific experience there. We also do things like focus collaboration group sessions. So for example, we now got a number of universities. So Rick and Elise, you're both on here, but we've got 2 other universities, City University and Falmouth universities in our customer group. For me, I know we all do have the same pains, but you often also have, we've got a number of housing associations as well. So we've got Settle and we've got Emily. You guys, it could be worth, if we can help you by facilitating a lunchtime or a coffee where you might chat and see if you've got similar pain points because you are in a similar industry, let us know, because we'd really be delighted to support you in that way. Probably the best way to do that, if you are interested in us setting something up, is to let Jane know, because she'll facilitate and perhaps contact, she'll know the right contact in there. And it's maybe not always the, it might be if you're in financial services, there's a difference between Rob, who's in HR analytics, and someone who's in compliance. So we'll try and find the right contact in that organisation, but then we're happy to host a Zoom conversation with people if that's useful. So, that's one of the things, isn't it? We've got to be more intentional about networking and information sharing. If we can help you with that, then we're delighted to do so. Contact through Jane is probably the easiest way to do it. I would probably come and facilitate, or Jane would facilitate, but it's just if you want us to set it up for you, tell us. We'd love to help. Our webinars, we've got one tomorrow, so that's, you sort of got a sneak preview, those 10 tips tomorrow. I'll be going through that in a little bit more detail on an Actus webinar. We then have one in July and then a break until September, but those are going on all the time. We do a couple every single month, with the exception of August this year, on those. And we've also got our remote training sessions kicking off again in September. So we've got the remote manager training and the superhero training. Those are our open courses, but we've also run them in-house for larger organisations. Well, actually not even that huge, but we've run them in-house for many organisations. We have got a learning solutions customer offer for you. If you want to book into any of our courses, of our September open courses in there, then you can get a third off in terms of customer price there. So it's a reduction there for those. And you'd also get a personalised 360 feedback. So if you've got people that you want to put on the hybrid management training or on the Change Superhero, then there's special offers going on there if you book before the end of July. Keep an eye out for all of our communications channels. There's all the links there, and we'll send these out, so you've got all these links, so don't worry. I think a lot of you are connected with us. If you're not a member of the HR Uprising LinkedIn group, it might be worthwhile doing that. We're up to almost 1,000 members. Again, lots of like-minded people, and a good way to expand your network there. And here's links to all of our different resources. If you wanted to join the webinar, Caitlin has actually popped the link into the chat, so you can just grab the link if you want to. And Adrian's saying, if you can't see these resources already within Actus, Adrian, whereabouts are they in Actus? Are they in the learning management piece? They're not in the resources. Are they in the learning, in the new Actus Evolve piece?
I think we call it the training materials section. So if you go to help and training materials, that now leads to, it's actually a part of our learning management system. You can access the resources there, and the webinars will be available there from this week as well. There are a few customers, and I think it's probably 5 or 6 customers who don't yet have that option, but will do in about 3 weeks.
Brilliant. Okay, so if you can't get it in 3 weeks, let us know. We'll show you how to find it, where you can get access to more of these resources. And then finally, I've got a final poll and a question, and this is really, thank you so much for helping us grow. So those of you who've come back to us from before or recommended us, you know, we're really grateful to you. It's a really tough time to be a small business, so we're grateful to have been able to come through and be seeing the other side of COVID, and to have so many people join us today. We wanted to ask if you were prepared, and it's an if, and realise that we might feel a bit early for some people, but if you were prepared to either refer a peer or, you know, a colleague, if you think someone else might like a demo from Actus, might be interested in considering Actus, we would be so grateful for a referral. Or if you would consider a 5-minute video testimonial, we would get that done through our PR. You don't have to talk to one of us, it's just a conversation on Zoom. You'd get to authorize it, but it would give us some digital collateral, which would be real people that aren't us talking about Actus. If either of those would be something you'd consider, Caitlin, could you put the final poll up for me, please? Then in return, our thank you would be either a free training place or access to Actus Academy, which is our e-learning, which has got the Change Superhero or the management piece. So those would be things that we would say as a thank you if that was something you'd consider. So I'm aware that we've lost some people along the way, which many of them told us so, and maybe that's feedback as to how long something like this can last for. So we've popped some feedback up here. Really grateful to you to tell us what you made of the content we shared with you today, and you know, what we should do in future. Should we go back to the face-to-face, or is this the right thing? Should we do a number of sort of shorter ones? Would that be easier for people, or is this the right length? And if you're interested, if you're prepared to do a case study, or you're happy for us to discuss it with us, just let us know one way or another, then we'd be much appreciative of that. So that's it. 12:01, that's not bad. Managing expectations, got through half an hour earlier, so everyone's going to have a bit of lunch. No one's unhappy with something early. We can happily stay on. We've got the other links here in the HR Uprising. Thank you so much for joining, all of you. And